Taysom Hill in the open field, he's going to do just that.
The hurdling Taysom Hill. BYU heading into its Thursday night home opener against Houston after a second straight thrashing of the Texas Longhorns. They got a quarterback worthy of Heisman talk and a not so daunting schedule, so we figured we'd check in with our Cougars insider Greg Wrubell to gauge just how far BYU can go. Greg, Texas obviously last week without its quarterback and 3/5 of its line, but where BYU is concerned, who deserves the most credit offensively and defensively?
Well, I think on offense, we go with the obvious, Taysom Hill. It wasn't quite the eye-popping performance of 2013 when he ran for 259 yards, but it was certainly good enough. He ran for just shy of 100, had 3 rushing touchdowns, had that highlight reel score. He was the central figure for BYU's offense. Leading only 6-0 at halftime, Taysom kind of took over in the third quarter. BYU had almost a perfect third quarter, scored 28 points. And defensively, I thought it went to a few people. Rob Daniel had 2 fumble recoveries, a fumble forced. Michael Alisa was forcing fumbles, making tackles on special teams in addition to defense. So I think it was more of a team effort defensively, but Taysom is the man for this BYU offense.
Well, let's drill down on him a little bit more, Greg. People who really follow college football say this kid should be in the Heisman conversation. If you were running the Hill for Heisman campaign, give me your top 3 talking points.
Talking point number 1 would be a true dual threat. He's a 1,000-yard, 3,000-yard guy, rushing and passing. That's what he should be this season. So he really can put up big numbers on both sides. Secondly would be the highlight reel plays. You've got to have those, what they call Heisman moments, signature plays, and Taysom seems to rack them up. And then thirdly is kind of dependent on the team. But I think if Taysom does well, the team will do well. But as BYU has a special season, longer they can go undefeated, the more the Taysom talk will continue.
Well, Ty Detmer is BYU's last Heisman winner. That was back in 1990. Max Hall got some talk until they dropped some games. Speaking of which, as we look at this year's schedule, 3 tough road games for the Cougs. UCF nearly beat Penn State. Boise has lost at home just 4 times since 2000. And Cal has gotten off to a pretty good start, especially considering the Bears last season. So let's bring in Pete Fiutak here. Pete, do you think this Cougars team has the ability to go undefeated? And if not, who's the biggest test for them?
Boise State is going to be that nasty test. You saw what they did against Colorado State this last weekend, completely shut down the Ram running game. That's going to be the dangerous game for them, going on the road to that screaming blue turf. That run defense is going to be tough. That game against Cal at the end of the year is going to be a little bit dangerous too. And of course, like you mentioned, the UCF game, but there's not a lot else there. That's good and bad. First of all, if you get to 12-0 in your BYU, you are right in the table for the discussion for college football playoff. 11-1 doesn't get it done. 12-0, I think it probably gets them in. 11-1, you're going to the Miami Beach Bowl.
Greg, where do you chime in?
Well, I would say that 12-0 puts BYU into consideration for one of the New Year's Six. I think playoffs a bit on the outside right now. They'd really be a sleeper for that. But I think 12-0 puts you in a New Year's Bowl, one of the New Year's Six. And we really have to see how those other teams, and Pete mentioned them, you talked about them, how those other teams do to see what BYU's strength of schedule ends up being at the end of the year.
BYU, get those Texas pom-poms out. If Texas starts to rock in the Big 12, all of a sudden that 41-7 win looks a lot better. You need Texas to be amazing.
And that is exactly what happened with Texas last year. They did get better down the stretch. So BYU obviously looking for that for a second straight year. The last time the Cougs went undefeated, it was 1984 en route to a Holiday Bowl win over Michigan, #1 in the final rankings by AP and the coaches poll.
Yeah, but they didn't play anybody. This team's going to play somebody.
All right, fair enough. Greg, thanks so much for the time. You enjoy the game. And if you're looking for some good football to watch Saturday, how about Northern Illinois, which just beat Northwestern last week, 2-0. Heading out to Vegas, they're going to test their luck against UNLV, 4 p.m. Pacific kick time right here on CampusInsiders.com.